Hello, and welcome to another episode of .NET in the Wild. And today I've got my awesome friend. Which way am I pointing? I'm pointing the right way. I've got Alex Dunn here.
Hey.
How are you, Alex?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Are you there?
Oh,
good.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I'm good. I'm doing good. Yes, everything is peachy, and I'm just excited because we've not had a show for several weeks because travel and stuff and things and people who. So I'm excited. And there's obviously a little bit of latency because we're quite far away. I'm in the UK and you are on the east coast of the US of A.
That's right. Right in the Boston area.
That's it. I'm going to Boston in September, so maybe I'll get to see you then. We'll see. I've never been to Boston.
Ooh, I'm going to have to give you a tour then.
Yes. I'm here for the tours, definitely. Very much interested in tours. So, Alex, why don't you tell folks who you are?
Sure. So, hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Alex Dunn. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Voicify, where we build a platform for enabling businesses, enterprises to build their own voice assistants that can run anywhere. On top of that, I'm also the founder and creator of Enabled Play, which we're going to talk a little bit about today, especially, which is a series of devices and services that help people control their computers, their games, their programs, their apps, using all sorts of new sort of paradigms. So offline voice commands, computer vision, expression and gesture recognition, lots of automation, lots of Azure, lots of .NET. And that's sort of why I guess we're here today, is to dive a little bit more into some of that and show you all how we can apply some really cool things in .NET, some applied AI, and all for the sake of, especially helping people with disabilities play games and just use computers in ways that were otherwise really difficult to use.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really awesome. So we've got Nick and Napalm here today so far.
Hey.
Have said hello, so lovely to see you. Some of you may have seen Alex on Twitch streaming under Suave Pirate.
That's right.
Yes.
Swap Pirate everywhere because Alex Dunn is a very ordinary name, and Swap Pirate is a little bit easier to find when you Google it. So
it is, and all I have to do is start writing Suave, and you come up.
That's right.
So Nick is asking, could lazy developers use it so they don't have to type?
Oh, yes, you can. We'll do a live demo. I'll show using voice commands and face commands with GitHub Copilot to actually write code hands-free, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty awesome. Now, we have a regular community member, Marcus Voice Programmer, and he might pop in, I guess, today. He's very into programming with voice and all of that. So I'm excited. I've done a little bit with voice, but nothing like you have. And I remember when you started to build Enable Play on stream. And that must have been, was it 2020? Is that when you started?
Literally like almost exactly to maybe over 2 years ago is when I started the first prototypes, which are like, it's so crazy to think back on because like looking back now, they're garbage. Like they're so bad, they're so slow. They kind of prove the point. I was using like Alexa speakers and like Bixby instead of doing my own speech recognition, and there's no computer vision stuff. And we did some actually like really, really cool things that ended up leading to like what Enable Play is now, which I can share a little bit of. Like, we used Snapchat, like the social media like camera app to.
Oh, okay. Is it the Snap camera, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We did a hackathon there. We won. We as I guess like the royal we, because I feel like my chat was helping along the way too. Yes, the we for the parasocial relationships. Yes. Yeah, that was a really cool one because I mean it's all still .NET, but other than the Snapchat part, we built like a custom lens. And if you've never used Snapchat before, there's a lot packed into what you can do with it, and it can recognize different facial expressions, which if you caught earlier where I said we with Enable Play do face expression controls, that was sort of the original prototype of that. But instead of like being in its own app, you literally launch Snapchat, launch the custom Suave lens, and what happens if you did things like raise your eyebrows or open your mouth or did like different hand signs like fist, horns, finger to the air, stuff like that, it would flash a QR code on the screen. And so now in order to make that actually then go process and like run a command in the game, we would run a UWP app, again, all .NET, that was using the screen recording APIs in Windows. And you had to plug your phone in, run something like Visor, and then like pull up Snapchat, and it would read using zebra crossing .NET binding, which shout out Reddit or John for building that way back when. But basically, it would read the QR codes, and the value of the QR code would be like the command. It would say like you raised your eyebrows, and then we would run that through what was called at the time again Suave keys, the original type of Enable Play to then do something. All of that like crazy roundaboutness is like just to let you like raise your eyebrows and have it like hit the space bar. But it ended up being really cool. And now, we don't have to use Snapchat for that. It's all actually built into the app, custom models that can do offline computer vision, stuff like that too, which is pretty cool.
That is phenomenal. I'm just kind of a bit, my brain is a bit blown. I remember when it was called Suave keys for sure.
That's right.
And then I miss that whole section, obviously, where you're creating a QR code and then reading it with another app via a screen capture oh,
it was nutty. So
complexity. And I'm assuming there must have been, well, maybe not that much latency, but was there with that? Like
it was actually not bad at all. Here, I can actually pull up a video of it.
Yeah, you want me to share your screen?
Yeah, share my screen. I got a diagram I can walk through, and then
okay, cool.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about, right? So we had the mobile app. Mobile app was in Xamarin, which would then launch Snapchat with the lens installed. It was literally a Xamarin app with a button that just had like a link, like a deep link to the Snapchat lens. And then there's that SnapReader app. By the way, all this stuff's on GitHub, the original prototypes and stuff. It's all in the Suave Keys project. And I can show, I might pull up some of this stuff.
Is that under Suave _ pirate on GitHub?
Not underscore.
Just Suave pirate.
Here,
just to be difficult. Okay, I'll find that in a minute and share it. Folks.
The only place I'm underscore is Twitter and Twitch. Everywhere else, I'm pretty sure is straight up just Suave pirate, all one word.
Okay.
Including LinkedIn. Go to linkedin.com/in/Suave pirate. That's also me.
Brilliant.
Okay. So not to spend too much time talking about the Snapchat stuff, but it's really cool, and it is like what led to what we have now. But this is sort of the diagram, right? So it was all a central API that could basically ingest commands, and it was all like authenticated. So you would sign in to your Suave Keys account on this SnapReader Windows app and on the actual like Suave Keys app itself. Yep. The two different Windows apps you had to run. The SnapReader app would then send requests over SignalR over WebSockets to here, and then I would send it over WebSockets back down to the other client. So all roundabout way where we realistically don't have to go over the internet. And then we would send a serial request to the actual controller, which at the time was using an Arduino Leonardo, which would then send USB commands back. So all that being said, you open the mobile app, you say, please go to, you tap the button, open up Snapchat, you start raising your eyebrows, it flashes QR codes, you run the SnapReader app after you plug in your phone and share your screen and then choose to stream your phone to it. And then you raise your eyebrows and it all ends up, pressing spacebar. So here's a real quick example. And again, I'm going to date myself a little bit with this video in terms of the gaming world because it's Fall Guys, and at the time, Fall Guys was cool.
It was.
So this is what we were doing over there. Let me see. So you can see left side before I play it. Left side, this is the lens. You can see the QR code starting to flash.
Yeah.
Right side is just my face with the anime filter. Also, chat was able to type stuff. We had like a Twitch integration, which is pretty cool too. But anyway, let me just sort of run the video real quick. It's like 2 minutes.
It says that I think it did it too fast, and we basically like crashed the game. Oh no. I think that would type in M, by the way, which I don't know if it's wired anything. Google CEO, great.
So my real face looks like over here too. It's cool.
Every time
it's really disturbing me, your face right now.
We did things for people that subbed. We're able to change the face part of the lens.
Yeah.
So people chose Alien Alex.
Punching my coffee.
So
that was you looking in and just raising your eyebrows then for that one, yeah.
Right here, I'll show you right here. So like, see two different QR
ones.
codes. Raise my eyebrows.
Working.
Here.
I'm gonna use my eyebrows. Little jump.
Yep.
So the latency's not bad. It's pretty fast.
It's actually really good.
Yeah.
Jump dive. All right, we're off and running.
It's just, not a reasonable thing to expect people to do, to install like 4 different apps and share their screen and things like that too.
Yeah. I've got a question here as well from Nick saying, so would you be able to use Toby to implement some of the functionality as well? I'm not sure what Toby is.
Toby's an eye tracking hardware, so it's almost like big sort of camera you sort of put on top of your monitor, and it can do gaze tracking. You can use them in parallel, right? So in the end, what Enable Play is, it's a USB device. Actually, I'll hold it up on camera. Here it is. There's a little controller. There's microphones packed into there, and there's a Raspberry Pi compute module packed into there. It's basically all that there is. So you plug it in, and it acts like a keyboard and mouse or a controller to whatever device you're plugged into. So you can, just like with using Toby for like alongside your regular keyboard, you can also use it alongside Enable Play. So they go hand in hand. That being said, we are going to be launching gaze tracking built in the next couple months, which means you wouldn't need Toby. You could just use Enable Play. Of course, you still can. Theirs is a very great product, but we want to be able to offer some sort of implementation that people can get up and running with without having to now pay for 2 different devices.
So that's coming soon. So at the moment, can we just have another look at that device you've got?
This little guy.
So is that tracking your gestures as well?
So this doesn't have the camera in it. You can plug in a webcam to the USB ports.
Right.
And use it that way. But for the most part, the way that people use expression and gesture controls is from the app. So actually, I have it up. Let me switch. If you want to share my screen again, I should have it somewhere. Where's my visor? Sorry for the quick shuffling there. I know.
No worries.
There we go. Oh, here it is. Okay, so this is like there's an app that goes along with it, right? It's how you control it. So basically, the way it generally works is you either connect to the device online, which you plug it in and it tries to connect online. You can set different Wi-Fi's for it and stuff like that, or you connect to it locally on Bluetooth. So right now I'm connected to it over WebSocket from my phone over the server. You then create profiles, which determine the different types of inputs you want to use to like what it should actually output to your computer. So you can say things like with voice commands, if I say jump, that should be the space bar, or if I raise my eyebrows, that should do something. And so I've got a demo here that I put together for NDC Porto. Then these are all the different ways that you can basically start doing inputs. So you can tell the built-in microphones on the device to start listening and stop listening, which then will just start running voice commands offline. You can use your keyboard on your phone or your tablet and actually have that then type on your computer, which is really great for situations where actually there's a discussion I was in on Twitter today about this. So this is a little bit of a niche use case, but I want to sort of explain and why this is where it really shines, this type of message thing. In certain games, if you need to use a keyboard input, like entering the name for your character at the start of like an RPG or something, for people with certain disabilities, they use a virtual keyboard. Usually that'll be with something like an eye tracker, like Toby. If you do that as a game developer and you implement it like full screen, that virtual keyboard can't show up on the screen. So instead, you can do with Enable Plays, use your phone or tablet and just type it there, and it'll actually be able to type in the game. So like that's how I use that, or just straight up dictation mode where I can say like type XYZ, give it a name. So that's the type of message. There's also hotkeys. So basically buttons that you can pull up on your phone or tablet to do stuff. So I've got like click and right click, as well as like this one, which will open up VS Code automatically. Here we are over in VS Code. Spoiler alerts for demos. Copy things, start presentation, new files, things like that, running macros. There's also tilt controls, which I have tilt controls right now set up to map to my mouse movement. So for example, as I start to move it here, you see it's kind of, I know my probably a little small, but you literally see it move.
I can see,
So you can then, especially for people where a normal mouse is a little bit difficult to use, something like a larger iPad can be used to actually control your mouse.
So they can hold like that more, or just hold something and move it like that. Yeah,
exactly. And then lastly, there's expression control. So this will pull up the camera, which is why I'm fixing my hair, because I'm about to put myself on double camera here.
I see.
And whatever different expressions you have in your profile, it will start firing off. So the main different types, actually, I'll go over here to the profile and I'll show you all the different ones. So for when you're building a profile, you can choose a type of command, face or body expression. Here's all the ones you can use. So tilting your head left is, left and right, sort of changing the angle. Tilting your head back is sort of looking up. Tilting it forward is looking down. Turning your head is sort of like shaking your head no, left and right. Leaning back, so moving further away. Forward is closer to the camera. Left and right is sort of like body leans. Moving up and down. Move up is sort of like rising up, and down is like a duck. Start and stop smiling. Raise your eyebrows. Open and close your mouth. And we're adding more of these basically every other week with each release. So some other ones that'll be coming up are gritting your teeth. Being able to pucker your lips. Now, those aren't necessarily ones that are like ideal for gaming situations, but as a total side note, I work with like speech therapists, speech pathologists that will use this to basically like gamify speech therapy. So they'll do things like want to track how someone is moving their mouth, and usually that's done with just like someone watching, filming, coaching them on how to do things, or even there's like physical sort of things to like grow the muscle and grow that sort of pattern. But in the case of, what we can do with Enable Play is actually make it something that's fun. We can track those things happening, puckering like as if you're sucking on a straw, smiling, opening and closing your mouth, gritting your teeth, widening your mouth, things like that, like really, really small micro movements of your mouth. and actually have that do stuff in games. So like, especially for kids, they can go play Minecraft, and basically a parent can be at home with them and be like, hey, let's go practice what we were doing at speech therapy. Let's have you go play Minecraft. And if you grit your teeth, and that's mining. If you open your mouth, then that's placing something. And then, you can use other sorts of controls as well. So that's, I know, a little bit of a tangent, but.
But it's amazing. I mean, that's really phenomenal. And I can't believe that it's so sensitive as to be able to know when someone grits their teeth and things like that, But what a wonderful way. I'm very interested in gamification for learning and things like that. So that's really cool to see it used in such a positive way as well.
Yeah, it's been really cool. I mean, I do a talk about, building enable play, and I originally built it for gaming. More specifically, I built these original prototypes, like, even the Snapchat one, to help my brother, who has a couple disabilities, be able to play games more easily. That was the sort of original inspiration. But what I learned is when I started showing it to people, they were like, wow, I think it would be really cool if we could do this. And I was like, oh yeah, we definitely can. It's actually out of the box. I just only really applied it to gaming. And what I ended up sort of uncovering is that, the issue that I saw in gaming accessibility, where games are built, usually, not all, there are some great games out there that are very accessible for a sort of specific type of person. And if you don't fit that mold, then it's harder. Not necessarily impossible. There's other tools out there too, like Toby, like the quad stick, but you're immediately at a disadvantage, right? So I saw that in gaming, but it exists at a much deeper level.
Yeah.
So, I work with school districts now to be able to help students who, in sort of special education programs with disabilities, use computer labs. I didn't know that those students literally could not even participate in computer labs at a lot of schools, because they had no way to be able to keep up with the pace of the class. And if you think about that at that sort of lower level, the way that technology is progressing at the macro level, it's very fast. It's always accelerating. That's the goal. But when you fall behind immediately, other people are going to take off way faster, and you get left behind throughout the rest of your life, essentially, if you can't keep up with technology. That's the underlying problem I want to solve with Enable Play, and I'm starting to solve already, which is exciting. So working with schools, or working with occupational speech therapists, and still, of course, helping people play games more easily. So I guess that was a little bit of a total tangent. I can show you a little bit. I don't want to go necessarily too deep into the modeling side of things, but how we're able to actually parse, those different types of fine movements, because I think it's an interesting approach, because typically what people will do with computer vision is train a model to look for a specific thing. And they'll train it with tons of data, and then they can start to recognize. That's how Snapchat works. So they know when your eyebrows are raised because they've trained a model around your eyebrows being raised. What I did instead was trained a model that can just pick up what are called facial landmarks, which are essentially just features of your face, and essentially plot them on a relative 2D graph over your 3D self. So if you think about, I'll pull it up here, my face, I've got eyebrows here, and then look, it's already picking up things with me turning my head. I can find basically the start and end of every point of my face, my inner lips, my outer lips, my teeth, my tongue, my pupils themselves. And so essentially what we're doing is training a model that can detect the raw features or landmarks and basically plot them as points. So my eyebrow, for example, would have about 20 different points on the plot, bop, 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 bop. And this one's it. And then, about 100 around my eyes, around 100 around my lips, my nose, my whole sort of face box and things like that. So instead of just training a model for finding if you raised your eyebrows or not, we then just do math. we just do maths to figure out if you moved it by comparing it to previous frames. So I can swing over and show you a little bit of how that works. So,
did you use ML.NET for this?
No, I did not. So some of the original models are built in Python, and then for other parts of it, I'm using ML-Kit, which is already provided by Google and Android, and the Vision framework from iOS. And then all the device firmware is in Python, but the app itself is in .NET. So even though we're using MLKit and Vision framework for some of the basics. The rest of it is all .NET. In this case, it's a Xamarin Forms app. Well, I'll be moving it to .NET MAUI once that hits GA. But just a quick overview here. It's a standard sort of out of the box structure for Xamarin Forms, one shared class library, and then your sort of different platform heads.
Yeah.
So I've abstracted the ability to detect those face landmarks by streaming the camera frame. And so what that ends up creating is this thing that I just call a face expression. So this is just a POCO, right? It's just a .NET C# model. Yeah. You'll see here there's a list of points, float-based points for your left eyebrow, for your right eyebrow, for your left eye, for your right eye, for your pupils, which is, hey, look at that. We're going to be doing eye tracking soon. Face contours to the actual shape of your face, inner lips, outer lips, nose, median lines, so sort of cross your face, and then bools for is smiling if your left eye is closed, if your right eye is closed, and then your overall bounding box. And then there's some other things here for the position relative to the camera. So your pitch degrees, your roll degrees, your yaw degrees.
So this way, and
so it's I literally always have to look this up. Okay, it's pitch is up and down like this.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yaw is like that, is it?
Yaw is like shaking your head no. It's like looking left and right. And then roll is like this. Sort of.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Got that. I would have got I would have thought that was roll and that was yaw. So,
yeah.
okay, cool.
These two I always have to double check. There you go. Turning left and right.
Oh, you've got it in the notes. I could have just cheated.
This is just me. Okay. So basically, think about it like this: we get the stream of the camera, and then we do the detection against the model, and then we generate this model, right? For every single frame, we're going to create a new face expression.
Okay.
Then what we do is we pass this into what I've called the expression command provider. There's some other sort of details here which I'll get into, which are like the ability to apply sensitivity, baselines, things like that. But let's jump to like how we actually do things, right? So now let's figure out what commands are out of your current face. So we get that face expression passed in, and then we set this previous face in state to the current face, basically, if we don't have one. Also, this baseline face, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So now we have your current face, and we know basically the previous frame, what your face was. I've got a local method here for triad commands. Shout out the ability to actually run local functions in C#. Been missing that for years. Then we basically go through each one of the different things and see if we can add it as a command. So if we're smiling, you see there's things here like, should we be doing blink? Because people blink all the time. I don't know. If your left eyebrow's raised and your right eyebrow's raised and the previous one wasn't, well, that's an eyebrow raise. If your mouth is open and it previously wasn't, let's run the mouth open command. Leaning back, basically running all these different detections, right? So essentially we aggregate all the different commands and then we throw them across, and then some of the stuff for mouse movement as well. So what I just showed there in the current frame is not using mouse movement with my face. That's just using commands. And I'll show you after I go through this a video of using these in Elden Ring for the gamers out there that are playing some of the more difficult games, playing it basically hands-free. But anyway, we get to the end and then we fire off and say, hey, we got commands detected. That ends up running through the service to then send it over WebSocket or Bluetooth, which then basically sends it to the device. And the device says, okay, let's execute this over USB, whatever that is. It could be a macro, it could just be a single input, or it could be mouse movement. Now, this is great if you are looking just straight at the camera and your like face is dead center of it. But again, these are built to be personalized, and especially for people with disabilities. And what's common in especially people that have things like cerebral palsy or MS is their sort of resting position, their resting body position is not going to be just like straight up dead center camera. And so what I wanted to be able to do was allow it to understand your baseline position and then move everything and fire these commands relative to that. So even if you just slouch, like if you just sit like this, you can use it, because basically now I know this is your resting position. So now when you do something like turn your head left or right, I know it's relative to that rest position, not relative to dead center. So that's what the baseline is. It literally just takes your first detected face and says that's your baseline. There's also a button that you can press, which I'll just switch back over to Visor real quick, to basically say like update my baseline. So like right now I can say that's my baseline. If I want to slouch and just sit like this, Now that's my baseline. You see it detecting my head tilting back and me smiling. So you can change it on the fly, but whenever you start it, it'll basically pick that up as your default baseline. Now,
okay. So if I was like, say I was sat here, and maybe I had something, issues with my neck that I know I have issues with my neck, and sometimes my head isn't on straight. So I can't have it straight, so I guess that would detect that that's my baseline there, and then move from either side of that. Okay.
Right. So if you're sort of like, even if the camera's here and you're looking off this way, we know now your default, even just the yaw position, right? Like that's now everything's calculated relative to that.
And I take it that users are using their phone. So, for example, if they're looking at the screen, they may not be able to hold their phone. They may have it on a stand. And so it's not obfuscating the screen. They may have it like off to the side. So it allows for all of that. That's really amazing.
Yeah, usually people are using it in a stand or even it like propped up against something. A lot of times people with physical disabilities that especially that are like something like quadriplegic will already have like a stand attached to their wheelchair. But in other cases where you just want to set it up, prop it against, a water bottle.
Or just against I could put it against my monitor in front of me for even,
Exactly.
And interesting. Yeah.
So the other thing, especially, to your comment about like, if you're having neck pain, well, one, you shouldn't be doing a lot of big movements if you're having neck pain, which is, there's disclaimers in here saying like, hey, don't break your neck, please. But the other thing is like, you may only be able to turn your head left a certain distance and maybe able to turn your head right even further, or like in any of these directions, right? And so what you can do is actually change the sensitivity of every single expression. So let me show you what that looks like real quick. So it's literally just this page. I love that every time I go back to Visor, I still have this Fall Guys thing up. Every single expression, you have a sliding scale for how sensitive you want it to be. So my head tilting up, like looking up, I have that on very high sensitivity. The second I move up at all, and you can get these like sort of like twitch movements rather than like big sweeping like left, right? So the higher the sensitivity, the less you have to move, but you can change every single one. So if you are someone that can only turn their head right a certain distance, left further, that's exactly how you would set this up. So your left sensitivity is lower, you have to turn it further, and your right sensitivity is higher. Or if your default resting position is leaning a certain way and you can't turn it much further that way, just increase the sensitivity and then you get these sort of nice twitch actions. Also, like for people that are playing games with it, it's useful. Like if you're going to play a difficult game where you need to have a lot of fast inputs, you don't want to have to like do these big sweeping movements to trigger a command. You want to just sort of like do these sort of twitchy movements. But every single thing has sensitivity here, including like eyebrow sensitivity, mouth open sensitivity, smile sensitivity. And this is where you control the mouse settings too.
And how do you account for people who have a natural shake? Would you, so say, let me think. So
like if someone
like Parkinson's or something, if someone has a tremor, can you account for that kind of movement as well?
Yeah, I mean the easiest way is just like turn your sensitivity down so that
so it's not going to see it.
Right, you're not going to get like false positives from sort of micro movements.
You're making me super aware of my head tilt because
I do it all the time. I'm like,
I know that I'm thinking, am I straight? And I know I'm not straight. I'm twisted this way, and I try and straighten, and it's really hard. And now I'm like, be straight, Layla. Come on, your osteo wants you to be straighter.
Yeah.
Like she's done a lot of work, so I'm gonna hook my hand over this side of my chair now.
Every time I'm like debugging and I'm like testing some of the new expressions, I'm always like, okay, posture real quick. Little quick posture check. Okay, now yeah. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with it. So outside of obviously like the use case of it making it much easier for people with disabilities to control games in new ways, I use it all the time. I mean, like you can honestly, and this may be a bit of a stretch for some people, but it's something I love, is you can almost make certain games like way more immersive by mixing in, your regular keyboard and mouse controls or your gamepad controls and these different movements. So like, for example, if you're playing like a first person shooter, use like your lean left and lean right to be like your lean around corners. Or what I have a video, I'll try to pull it up. If not,
I do that anyway, Alex.
I know that. Okay, so
I'll be like, I'm going to peep around this corner, and I'm like, what are you doing, Layla? It's a 2D screen.
So I'm going to be working on this demo with Mario Kart on the Switch, because I get called out by my wife every single time. Because like if I'm turning, I'm like
I'm sure we're not alone.
So it's funny. The first reason why I actually implemented the lean back and forth was not because I was like, oh, that's an obvious input that people will need, because it's kind of a weird, like you got to put your whole body into it. It's a little bit more effort, but I wanted to be able to play Doomfist in Overwatch. I don't know if you've played Overwatch before or Doomfist, but it's a basically like team combat and like game and fast paced. There's a big competitive league around it and stuff too, but Doomfist is a character that has a giant fist, and he like charges it and then like punches and it sends him across the map. So what I wanted to be able to do, because I get called out on it by my friends all the time when I'm playing that character, is I lean back when I'm charging and then like throw my face at the screen when I unleash it. I was like, I should just make that possible, and so I did.
Absolutely. That's so cool.
I tweeted about it with a video. I'll throw that in chat too for people. I just got to find it real quick. That's a fun one. The leaning ones are fun.
I jump as well. I'm like, I'm gonna jump.
Well, you can do that too. You can duck. So like I have a couple of friends that do that a lot. Ducking is a lot of fun, especially if you're playing like a platformer game or something. Like it's like jump and duck. Like you can actually just do that. Here,
it's so interesting, Alex, because I have lots of joint issues. I've got a hypermobility disorder. So I can't play for long periods of time without pain through my hands.
Yeah.
And I can't manage, where you have to like combi moves and you have to like press lots of buttons at once. I don't have the dexterity or ability to do things. And I can see this, I consider myself to be able-bodied. And I think you can even see this being applied to, I don't play games much. I get my partner to play them and I direct because I just can't manage them. But I could see this opening it up again to me being able to play without pain, for example, which would be really interesting.
Yeah. So one of the, in games like Elden Ring, which I'll pull up a demo for next, there's this common thing you have to do if you're not deep into controller-based gaming. It's called the claw. I don't have a controller on me to sort of demonstrate. I'll just sort of do it.
Is it where you hold it this way?
No, it's more. It's sort of like a claw movement. I guess that is one way, but it's more of like you have to like. So you got to be able to like move your character with the joysticks, hold a trigger, and press a button on the right side at the same time. So right, your thumb's here. Normally, you take your thumb off the joystick and press a button over here.
Yes.
Like that. Well, what do you do if you have to also move this and hold
I have to hold it and then I have to
use another hand.
Or I switch around.
That's the claw right there. Yeah. So it's like if you're in a normal sort of like controller position using this hand, like hold the trigger here, but now switch it to your middle finger, still using your thumb on the joystick and like reach around. I was like, I'm never doing that again. I never want to do that. Like I'm able-bodied and it hurts. So games like Elden Ring sort of rely on that in their sort of faster paced combat. And so I just made it, be able to supplement all those things that I would normally have to do that with either voice commands or with face expressions. So here, let me do this. I'm going to switch to a different slide here. Here's a little video.
Sneak. Do you know I really hated Elden Ring?
I love it. I
hated it.
Yeah, I guess warning on the video game violence here. We're on Twitch and YouTube. There's tons of video game violence on here.
I can see you moving your head, tilting.
So I'm parrying by turning my head.
Oh, you're so lazy with it. It's so like, wow.
there's nothing more humbling than watching yourself from like a down angle while just playing a game to be like, oh, that's what I actually look like.
Yes. Without any self-consciousness.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna subject myself to the humility and show you the rest of it. But anyway, this is all practice because I'm about to go into a boss fight. But I wanted to show some other things like, okay, I need to just sort of get out of here and like get on my horse and run away and do some other sort of like different movements.
Your weird ghost horse.
Yes, Torrent, the goat.
And so how are you moving?
In this movement, I'm using joystick, but what I have now set up is the mouse movements with my face expression. So instead of using the turn to do the parry, I use turn to move. It's like I could move left and right. And then I use the like mouth and eyebrow expressions for attacking. Actually, in this case, I do use smile to attack as well, which you'll see more in the boss fight, which is here.
Enter.
Oh. There we go.
Oh my giddy aunt, look at the size of that thing.
Heavy.
So that's your heavy attack, okay.
Yep, exactly.
Heavy.
So you see the smiling going
Yeah,
on
I see it, yeah.
Light attacks.
Dodge. Dodge.
I'm sort of like moving with you now.
Heal.
Kind of broken, undodgeable attack is ridiculous, but
dodge. Heavy. Heavy.
Anyway, I won't subject you to the rest of it. Spoiler alerts.
I'm amazed at how accurate all of that is as well.
Yeah. If you use like, there's some things where you can create conflicts. Like if you were to use like tilting left and right and also turning left, what I've noticed in like user testing is a lot of people have a propensity to kind of do both and almost like turn all the way. So if you're that type of person and you wouldn't want to use both at the same time for different commands, you could just map both to one command, which is fine. But other than that, I mean, it's all offline. So the second it's detecting my movement, it's the latency is under 10 milliseconds, and then it's just Bluetooth to USB. So it's also like under 10 milliseconds. So with the voice commands running offline directly on the device, there's no internet connection at all. And the model that I use for the voice commands is it's built around Vosk and Caldi, which are open source. If you care to look those up, if you're interested in speech recognition, but it's a custom model that's basically more predictive and also can learn more from your speech pattern. Which means if you have, this is an industry term, it's a lame one, but a sort of a regular speech pattern, then, or more specifically, like if you have a disability that affects your speech, or if you have an accent. It'll start to learn from that and get personalized automatically, which means that you can still use voice commands even if you're nonverbal. As long as you can make basically different discernible noises, you can use.
It will pick it up. Yeah, that's interesting as well. That you can see a lot of applications there as well. Just outside of gaming, as you've already discovered through learning in schools and just helping. Make the world more accessible. It's really, it makes you think about how much we take for granted for our own abilities and things like that, and to think about what the sort of things that to make our very biased world more accessible to other people. It takes a lot of care and thought. So it's amazing to see you doing it.
Well, especially, in machine learning and AI, it's a difficult thing to basically try to guarantee no bias. The best way from my experience is like build something that can actually learn from the person and let them have control over it. That's easier said than done. And again, in the case of enable play, that's sort of the root of how the whole thing works. So it's it's a little bit easier to cut through bias because the whole thing is meant to be something you personalize. But if you're, thinking about other applications of machine learning, it's hard to implement models and implement user experiences too outside of machine learning that don't come with your own biases. Best way is basically make it personalized and put it in front of all sorts of different types of people and get more people involved that are, different than you in the build of what you're making.
Does it ship with like standard models? Should we call them standard? And then you build on those with your own personal things. So, for example, if I was using it, could I set it up for a British accent?
Yeah, so it ships with a base model for the different languages it supports, which right now is in production is only English. And the base model is trained with a lot of different accents. But again, it's that has bias built into it based off the data that was trained, that was used for training. But the more you use it and the way you use the app to basically configure it is how you can personalize it to detect your own commands. So yeah, it'll work. Basically, long and short of it, it'll work out of the box with a British accent.
And then you just keep training it. So if I had a very regionalized accent, it would start to learn more. If I had a Geordie accent, which is much harder to understand to people who haven't got the ear for it. I guess it will just learn and pick that up.
Yeah, and when you set up the profiles, there's ways to manage that too. So like when you go to add a voice command, you can add different variations, and it'll basically what happens is it automatically adds like detected synonyms. So as long as you're making voice noises, it's going to try to parse some sort of word, and then it starts to basically correlate those words to the ones that you wanted to use for those different commands and that you commonly use. And it's all offline too, which is nice. Like, a big reason I wanted to be able to do all of this offline was because I'm essentially asking people to put a microphone that's connected to the internet in front of themselves at all times while they're using their computer or playing games. And like, there's the easy way is use cognitive services. The original prototypes use things like cognitive services for voice commands, or like Google's speech to text. And the problem is like you're handing that audio data from your users over that, and it's super expensive. I mean, like, if you wanted to run cognitive services speech recognition, it's cheap. But if you have 1,000 users that use it straight for 10 hours, you just racked up a 5-figure bill for the month. So,
wow.
The offline stuff's nice. It's cheaper, but it also affords you the ability to, maintain the trust from your users. Like, I don't actually need to hear or have anyone else hear what you're saying when you're playing games.
Or use it to train other models, because not everybody wants their data used to train models for others,
Exactly.
Yeah. So where do you feel like you're going to go with it now?
That's a good question. So the plan is to just get more devices into more people's hands for gaming, for learning, and for productivity. So working on partnering with different like gaming accessibility companies and other hardware manufacturers to be able to get the devices either embedded into other devices or to just help people learn how to use them. Working with new and more departments of education at the state level in the US to be able to basically make it a standard that they can give to their students. And then partnering with organizations that want to be able to, grow their inclusivity with their employees, and that otherwise would not be able to help someone with a disability be productive in their job, to be able to just do that. That's sort of the main goal. It's more just get more devices into people's hands. Now, the biggest challenge with that is that it's built around Raspberry Pi hardware, and as many of you may know, there is a super cool global supply chain issue with silicon. So
just a small one.
yeah, so it's really cool. So I was able to partner with Raspberry Pi to sort of get around that a little bit and get priority devices shipped, but it's still very limited. So if you want to get one, please go order one and try it out. Or if you know someone that you think could benefit from it, please let me know, and we can link up over either LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever. But I don't have thousands of them at my disposal right now. Hopefully in the future that will come as the supply chain issues get more alleviated, and they are. So that's the hardest thing, is literally getting enough devices made to give to people. Other than that, in terms of features, there's more usability things, so more expressions, like I mentioned, to be able to support both like different people's expressions as well as like different use cases in like speech and feeding therapies and occupational therapies and physical therapies, different types of like body gesture detection, hand gesture detection. I'm going to be adding some more mouse features, and then also just more platforms that it can support out of the box, like the Switch, PlayStation, where right now the only way to use this device with those platforms and those consoles is to use a converter that can basically convert mouse and keyboard into Switch and PlayStation controller inputs. I want to be able to just, add those out of the box as different HID, human interface device applications, modes, essentially, that the device can switch to. So you plug it into a PlayStation, you can say, hey, this profile's for PlayStation. It'll be able to talk to the PlayStation the way that a PlayStation controller talks to a PlayStation. How many times can I say PlayStation? So things like that, basically make it more useful on more platforms.
Which is pretty awesome as well.
Yeah.
So this is your passion project. What do you do as your day job then, Alex? So you're at Voicify.
Yeah.
What does your day look like?
It's busy. So my day job, I'm the chief product officer at Voicify. So I run the product and engineering team alongside people like my mentor and the CTO, one of the co-founders, Nick, as well as other people on our team that are engineers and product people and architects. And essentially that's a B2B SaaS platform for building intelligent voice assistants that you can run anywhere. So also a whole lot of .NET and C# in my day. It's different, right? We're not talking about like USB inputs and controlling things. It's more like people embedding voice assistants into their custom hardware, people embedding voice assistants into their website, into their mobile apps, into VR headsets, into AR headsets, and basically anywhere else, right? We can also deploy Alexa skills and Google Actions and things like that. So my day is mostly sort of enterprise voice assistant, and then I finish work, and then I build assistive devices.
Yes. I'm now seeing how you had the upper hand when you beat me at PubConf with your Alexa talk.
Yeah, I may have had a little bit of experience there.
Yes.
That whole talk came from experience. For those of you who don't know, because I know we talked about it before on meetups and other streams, but I did a talk at PubConf in London. Oh my gosh, right before COVID, early
2020. Yeah.
Where we played drinking games with Alexa, and that was a ton of fun.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried that Alex beat me. PubConf is very, very scary. And it's usually after NDC conferences, and it's like an unofficial after party.
Yeah.
And I remember we were upstairs in some pub not far from the conference center, and it was like this. I don't know how I got up on the stage, one end of this pub, and you're given, is it a gold microphone? I seem to remember.
Yes.
Is it gold?
A gold microphone. At least the one, I think the one in NDC London is. I vaguely remember using a gold microphone.
I remember this gold microphone because I thought this isn't ostentatious at all. And you have no control over your slides. You give them, they are played automatically, and then off you go for 5 minutes. And it's one of the most, you and I have spoken at conferences all over the world, and I still think that PubConf 5 minutes was one of the most terrifying talks I've ever done.
It's easily the most stage fright I've ever had. We've spoken in front of big crowds before and gone really deep into the technical side, which can always be stressful, do live demos. But getting up in front of people and having to be funny and technical.
There's only 60 people as well.
Yeah, it was.
Most of them who we knew.
I know, it was packed in there.
Yeah.
It's a ton of fun. I'll definitely do it again. I mean, I was just at NDC Porto. We didn't have a PubConf, but we did do. Lemon ran it. If you don't know Lemon, he's Ahoy Lemon on Twitter. Super funny guy, super smart guy too. But we did the Jackbox game called Talking Points, which is almost like a PubConf where someone else is controlling your slides and you have to give a talk. Instead of 5 minutes, it's like 2, but we did that on stage in front of the whole conference, which was also a little bit stressful, but I lost. It was rigged. It's whatever.
Of course, it was rigged. Yeah, it was rigged.
One.
I was invited to speak at PubConf last week in London, but it was on Friday, and I was only in London for the day on Wednesday. So I said another time, and I don't know if my anxiety levels could have coped with PubConf last week. I think my little brain might have had words with me.
NDC Porto was my first international conference since COVID, and I was like, am I really ready to just throw myself up on stage and try to improvise being funny? It's like, I'm just relearning my social skills at conferences, and like,
it's hard going back. So hi Alan, lovely to see you over there on YouTube.
Hi.
And we are just coming more or less to the end, Alex. Was there anything else that you wanted to share? I mean, that's been a fascinating insight into your journey through to where you are today. I guess my question for you, before you speak, I've asked you a question, but I want to say something first. Is there a way that people can help? Is this open source? Is it closed? Is there a way that, people can help you, or is that not a thing at the moment?
It's not open source yet. I will be open sourcing certain pieces of it. And I'm also working on a third-party developer platform. So a big part of it is in terms of the whole system is enabling, pun very much intended, other tools to be used to also create inputs and to react to outputs. So if you're interested in it, let me know. There's an early access to that developer program sign-up form on the website. If you go to enabledplay.com, or we can throw that in chat, I'm sure. Then there's a sign up there. It's also where you can learn more, get more demos, order devices, and so on. So in terms of developers contributing, that's sort of the current state of things, but eventually, it'll be a little bit easier to build stuff around it.
So it's almost like you're going to allow people to do integrations with the platform.
Yeah.
A bit like the skills for Alexa, it could be almost like that.
Exactly. So being able to automate, like automatically switching the profile that you're using based off of, the game that you're using, or if you build an application that you want to make more accessible to people using enabled play controllers, there'll be integration points there. It's also, this is similar but adjacent, but the thing that we do now with schools is help them develop computer science programs for students going through computer science who also build, based on templates, integrations against the platform to basically help their fellow students. So if they have some way that they want to be able to help a student that uses the device do something new, they can learn the principles of programming without having to learn all the machine learning and the cloud architecture and everything else, and just like build a little Java applet or an Android app or an iOS app or a Windows app that then can connect to that person's device and do things. So similar, but obviously professional developers, I'm sure will be able to do a whole lot more than that too.
Well, that's amazing. Now you can answer my original question, which is there anything else that you would like to add or say or share?
I did say I was going to do a coding sample with GitHub Copilot. I could do that real quick.
Go for it. Shall I switch over to your screen? Are you ready? Alrighty, let's go. Are you ready, Nick? This is your super duper lazy developer.
Okay, I'm going to tell it to start listening. Let's see. Comment. Write a loop from 1 to 100. Enter. Function. Tab. Enter. Comment. Add a button to the page, and when it's clicked, run the loop function. Enter. Tab. Tab. Yeah, that's I think it's a good enough down. That's pretty solid, right? We added a little JavaScript function. We added a button to an HTML page. Oh, this is all JavaScript, by the way. Sorry to the .NET people. Just we could probably do the same thing in C#. That's GitHub Copilot doing the suggestions, but everything else sort of done, with just voice commands in this case. And of course, you could add face expressions to then go run and compile your thing and all that good stuff.
Wow, I was a bit like, oh my God, what's going on? Wow. So the Copilot is reading your comments.
Yeah. So
then suggesting the code on that. Wow. Yeah. That's very cool.
That's just obviously like the offline dictation is not always the most accurate, but the cool thing is GitHub Copilot usually figures it out.
Yeah. So there you go, Nick. That's it. That's how you can now do all of this. Is principal engineer level, because Nick's just made principal, isn't that right? Or is it team lead? High level, recent promotions. Congrats to Nick. So this is how you can do your 10x development now. You can sit there and just tell it to what you want.
Just tell them what to do. It's couldn't be easier. Yeah, GitHub Copilot is insane. It's I mean, like Enable Play and GitHub Copilot together, like a match made in heaven for making programming actually accessible for people that can't just slap through a keyboard. I mean, this is like, I guess, a final-ish note, but one of the interesting things about being a developer is that there's literally an advantage to typing faster. Like the faster you can type and the more efficiently you can use an IDE, the more productive you can be when you're actually sort of in your flow in writing code. And so, if you have any sort of disability that makes you even slower, even if you can use like Visual Studio, which has great accessibility tools built in, you're still going to be at some sort of disadvantage. Things like this get us a lot closer to parity with like, I wrote this faster than I actually could type it. Hands-free, which is pretty cool.
It's amazing. It's the little things that really make a huge difference. And this can do it. I know that on my keyboard, I hold it, I have a copy and paste button on this side.
Yep.
And just having those there make a huge difference, rather than me having to try and stretch and do those other things. And so I can imagine that just being able to speak it, tap it, is going to be life-changing to people.
Yeah, I mean, even things like copy and paste. I mean, hold on, let me see if I can select, copy, delete, paste.
Oh, it's amazing. I can see Nick getting really into this right now. So
the Visual Studio VS Code. I mean, every IDE has like a million different little things you can do, and if you figure out that one keyboard shortcut, like actually in Visual Studio on Windows, there's one that I always forget, which is to open the current file that you're in the Solution Explorer, which I think it's like Control K and then like the right brace or something like that. I always forget it. Case in point, I added a command that just says open in Solution Explorer, and it does that. I never have to remember it. It just runs the little macro.
That is amazing, Alex. Thank you so much for your time sharing that with us today. Folks, if you want to follow what Alex is doing, did you say you're _ on Twitter? Yeah,
I'm _suave_pirate on Twitter, or you can also follow Enabled Play, which is not an _ on Twitter as well, where we show updates and new features and things like that all the time.
I followed today.
Love it.
All right, there we go. So there we go. That's pretty awesome. Well, Alex, thank you so much for coming and sharing that with us. Folks, you know how to reach out to Alex now if you have any cool ideas or have things like that. Nick says, feature requests are coming your way.
I love it. Keep them coming.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alex. Love to Kenzie and the dogs. And yeah, we'll catch up with you soon. But first, before you go, is there anyone that we can raid? I usually get the guest to choose who we can raid.
Is Fritz online right now?
He might be, I think. Let me have a quick look. He was earlier when I was looking. When I was checking out the competition. Let's have a quick gander. He is.
Actually, you know what? Can we raid Able Gamers?
Of course we can.
I'm sending you their thing there. They're a nonprofit that works on accessibility and gaming and are big supporters of the devices.
Of course. Let me just bring that up. And then I will go and set the thingamabob up. That's a very technical term there.
The old thingamabob.
The thingamabob. Let me go open this up. Going here. And all right, let me pop them in. They're playing Guardians of the Galaxy right now. Alrighty, you ready to go? Well,
yes.
Let me start
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, chat, for all of your participation and support. Until next time.
All right, folks, we're heading over. Let me kick that off. Rating now. Thank you so much, folks, and we'll see you soon. Bye.